In the spring of 2012, my family, especially 3 of my young boys, were the victims of an illegal and negligent use of herbicides. They were standing behind our fence looking to see what was going on as a local neighbor pulled onto our boulevard with his quad-equipped commercial herbicide sprayer and doused them with a mixture of 2,4-D, dicamba, and mecoprop. 3 very nasty chemicals. My entire family were affected. Although we told our local neighbors their spraying was harming our children, they actually laughed and mocked us as crazy environmentalists. So the spraying of Roundup on public property and Killex for cosmetic lawn purposes continued until 2016, when after another major spraying, one of my young sons suffered a severe allergic reaction and went into anaphylactic shock and was rushed to the hospital and nearly died after he was playing near our fence in the late afternoon where a neighbor again sprayed. Even after my son suffered this life-threatening allergic reaction, the neighbors continued their herbicide spraying, refuting and denying their spraying had anything to do with my son's reaction. The epidemiological evidence contradicted their assertions of herbicide safety. And as I began to research herbicide safety, I became shocked and concerned by what I had uncovered. The first category of concern for me was the fact that the science and testing for herbicide use was outdated, and in some cases fraudulently misrepresented as safe. Upon further research, discussions, and meetings with scientists and doctors, I realized that the public had not been educated concerning the latest science and data concerning controlling biological technologies that we call herbicides. In fact, a division of Health Canada, namely the Pesticide Management Regulatory Agency, assured me that herbicides were safe and thoroughly tested. This is categorically untrue. But the myth of safety is being perpetuated by the old science and third-party opinions of scientists who are generally tied to industry. So after I learned these facts, I realized people needed to become aware of the latest science and information and needed to know why the old data was inadequate and no longer trustworthy. We needed a more holistic and balanced scientific confirmation of safety. I felt that public servants and citizens need to be educated as to the history and failed systems and networks that continue to perpetuate and allow new science and information not to be used to support human health. This led to the second category of promoting public health. I thought surely my local neighbors would want to know how the latest info on herbicides harmed their own health and affected their own children and the public. I was certain the perpetrators of the pesticide spraying would want to learn how their spraying was harming my children. Unfortunately, they began to call my wife and I names, like crazy environmentalists, and that we should stop whining and complaining. They supported a mob mentality that refused to listen to how their actions caused harm to my children. They continued with their spraying and have vowed to do so. Recently, one of the sprayers revealed to me that it was not possible for herbicides to do any harm because they have been proven safe by the government safety tests. I asked him if he was familiar with the latest independent science that proves otherwise. His reply was that Health Canada does extensive testing. This, of course, is also not true. I asked him if he knew that the regulatory authorities used unpublished, non-peer-reviewed, industry-sponsored studies to base their regulatory decisions, whilst ignoring a large body of published science which shows how the actual risk assessment methods are inadequate, and that evidence of collusion with the agrochemical industry, conflicts of interest, cases of scientific frauds have undermined independent research in the most important regulatory agencies such as EPA and Health Canada. He responded by saying, well, there are always two opinions. It became very clear to me that his lack of education was the example that leads to public health threats and harm to children. Obviously, a more holistic approach concerning threats to public health was needed. The third and final category was the environment. As I researched more the effects of these toxins in our environment, it became clear that no credible scientific studies were being done on the synergistic effects on water, soil, and wildlife. The myth of herbicide safety was perpetuated by those who promote the products. I also understood that using biotechnologies to control the environment was having serious consequences to our natural well-being. Finally, I realized that I could focus my energy and my resources and time on taking legal action against these perpetrators that harmed my children with their harmful spraying in our neighborhood and get compensation, or we could tell our story about what we had learned and help people understand the truth. And even though we have a very strong case that includes documentation, witnesses, photographic evidence, we decided that the best course of action was to work for the greater good. So we chose to create this foundation. As we began to speak about our experience, people started talking to us and quietly supporting our efforts. We were put in contact with research scientists and doctors who helped us understand how our children were harmed. We have come to understand that many citizens, once they hear the facts, realize they or someone they love or they know are also victims of herbicide poisonings, especially glyphosate, and controlling technologies that put profits before human health and welfare. So the Holistic Community Foundation vision emerged. This vision includes you, those who feel inspired to help in a mission of change. We will become an online resource action-oriented endeavor. We will network with many citizens and organizations who seek to be part of a solution-based culture based on egalitarian meritocracy. We will become hyperlocal or glocal, as my associate Michel Cossy says, yet globally connected. Community based on a network of motivated people who believe that change starts with themselves and their local environment. We will become a networked foundation that will give all people the chance to tell their stories and participate what happened to them and what they have done to improve their circumstances and what they are doing in their local communities. It has become apparent that many people know of the problems of controlling technologies that we call herbicides and others that affect our health and our environment. But all that is needed is a holistic approach that is focused on the greater good for humanity. Will you please join me and my family and my associates in this project? Go to our website and read our purpose statement and give us your feedback. Let us work together and become the change we all know needs to happen. Thank you very much.